What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Urban Platform Speaks. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel as you tune in and check out the content. And with that being said, man, I want to talk about this Lamelo Ball trade, right? I'm not as excited as a lot of people are about the Lamelo Ball trade. You know, Lamelo Ball, in my opinion, he's exciting to watch. But he's not a player that is going to I don't think he's going to help this team win and get over the hump. I just don't see that. I'm not excited as a lot of other people. People say that, you know, especially playing with Anthony Edwards, right? Because Anthony Edwards need a point more. Now he needs somebody more like a Tyrese Halliburton than LaMelo Ball, like a pass first guard who can score when necessary. That's what Anthony Edwards need. He don't need this guy that's gonna come down and jack up all these threes. As a matter of fact, I would, in my opinion, I think Ja Morant would be a better match with him than LaMelo Ball. Because this guy, his decision making, in my opinion, is just not all that good. He's not a pure point guard. He's a shoot first guard. And then he's just a shoot first guard. And so now they got to talking about this trade. Scat was talking about it along with Jason Whitlock and one other dude, right? And so what I want to do, I want to play the audio. This is from Scat's show. I want to play the audio and I want to react to it because I think Scat made some good points and Jason Whitlock made some good points. And the third host on there, I thought was kind of missed the mark when it came to this trade right here.
This Scap, I'm sorry we went long here. You know, my Caitlin Clark obsession. But anyway, LaMelo Ball. I need you and Charles to make sense to me of LaMelo Ball traded to the Minnesota Timberwolves. Melo and Ant-Man seems like a match made in hell, but maybe I'm wrong. Scap?
Well, Jason, what's to make sense of something that makes absolutely no sense? The Minnesota Timberwolves tour de force of trashing and tanking their own team continues to wage on throughout this NBA offseason. Just an incredible mismanagement right now job by the front office elites there in Minnesota. Jason, it began a few days ago in a not really a well-publicized move when they traded Julius Randle to Brooklyn in a pure salary dump. They trade Julius Randle to move back 5 picks in the NBA draft. That's it. That's all they got for Julius Randle. Multi-time All-Star, multi-time All-NBA designated player. And they did that to free up enough cap space to give Ayo Dosunmu $112 million. A few days later, then, they trade Naz Reid, who was going to become the presumptive starting 4 in place of Julius Randle. They trade him for another guard in LaMelo Ball. They have no front court depth or size.
Right. So they trade their front court depth and their size for LaMelo Ball, who's not really a good defender, right? And what the New York Knicks showed this year, that if you have guys that can get physical with Victor Wembanyama, then you have a chance, because the defense is where you compete with this team, the Spurs. You gotta have a defense and the guys who can get physical with them. But you give up those big physical guys for LaMelo Ball. I don't get the logic in that.
All at this point. It's absolutely outrageous in a Western Conference where everybody's trying to get bigger and stronger in the front court. They're trading and getting rid of everybody to bring in this backcourt laden team now. And Jason, before I turn it to Charles, let me just say this. Availability is the best ability. LaMelo Ball, before we even look at the fit on the court, we have to realize this guy isn't available. In a potential 482 games that he could have played throughout his 6-year NBA career at this point, he has appeared in only 303 of them. That is roughly 62%, which translates out per season to about 52 games a year. That's 30 games missed per season on average for LaMelo Ball. And before we even look at fit with Anthony Edwards, we have to realize this guy only plays 50 games a year on average. So I have no clue what the Minnesota Timberwolves are doing. They have weakened themselves substantially moving forward into the overall Western Conference outlook.
Charles?
I definitely agree, and I didn't even really take into account the fact that LaMelo Ball misses, he missed 20 games a year. I didn't even look at that. I just think that his shot selection and his decision-making on court is going to, in my opinion, it's going to disrupt the chemistry of what the Timberwolves had. I just think that they made changes just for the sake of making changes, and it's just not good.
Jay's absolutely right about one thing. It's all bets are off if LaMelo Anthony is not healthy. I mean, you can't, if the best ability is availability. I agree with that 100%. But here's the problem. Here's why I agree with Minnesota. You're not listen. You can't get big. You can't get big like San Antonio. You can't get big the way Oklahoma City. I mean, those big guys are just hanging around the court. They're not just hanging out there, Jay. Where are they? I mean, you can't. You're not going to beat San Antonio and Oklahoma City by trying to match what they're doing. So you got to. It's kind of like in football when you had these power teams like Alabama just beating the crap out of everybody. And who gave Alabama trouble? People who could spread the field like Ole Miss at the time. I mean, I understand what you're saying, and I understand what you're saying 100%. But the problem is, where are you going to go and get frontline people to match up with San Antonio?
They had
Oklahoma City.
Yeah, number one, they had it. They had Nas Reed and Julius Randle, right? They had the size. Just imagine if the New York Knicks had got rid of Obi, or whatever his name, Anobi, right? They'd have got rid of him, and they'd have got rid of Karl Anthony Towns. Those guys, those big bodies played a massive part in them winning the championship. If they'd have been like, all right, well, let's go get some more scoring to help out Jalen Brunson. They would not have won the championship because they needed somebody who can defend and who could play physical against Victor and the Spurs. So, it's the same thing with Minnesota Timberwolves. They need somebody. In my opinion, they need big bodies and they need a pure point guard. I think they need a younger guard than Mike Conley. Mike Conley is kind of over the hill, and he's a small. When you got Mike Conley out there, he don't score and get around like he used to, right? You need a guy who's a little bit more dynamic, who can keep the defense honest. They're not really playing Mike Conley for his scoring, so they sagging off of him just so he can't really, they can't really penetrate and dish and get the, Nas Reed and Julius Randle them in the floor of the game because they're not respecting his shot or his scoring ability.
Charles, they had it. They had one of the best. Look, before the trades really started, let's go ahead and proceed this year. They had Karl Anthony Towns, Rudy Gobert, and Nas Reed on one lineup. Like they had arguably the best front court in the NBA, and they started messing with it, trading it away, and they've gotten worse now systematically every offseason over the last several offseasons. The way you're going to beat Oklahoma City or San Antonio to match up with them is defensively. And those teams, like you pointed out, are huge. They've gotten bigger in this draft. Look what the Thunder drafted Adai Mara from Michigan. He's 7'3". They add him to their existing 2 7-footers in Isaiah Hartenstein and Chet Holmgren. And then look what the Spurs did. They have Lou Cornett and Victor Wembanyama, 2 7-foot-plus guys. They drafted Jaden Quintance and Terrace Reed Jr., 2 big centers. Like, these teams are stocking up in the front court. It's an arms race for the 2 best teams in the Western Conference. The best player in the Western Conference is Nikola Jokic, a big. And during that time span, now we see the Minnesota Timberwolves flushing all of their elite front court players down the drain to get bad defensive players on the perimeter. LaMelo Ball is not a good defender. Like, you've got to be an elite defensive team in order to match up with the Spurs or the Thunder. Minnesota was an elite defensive team 2-3 years ago. They've gotten worse each offseason.
Yeah, they just took a step back. In my opinion, they took a step back, man. And LaMelo Ball can't stay healthy. Then he has poor decision making. And he's not a defender. So I think offensively the chemistry is not going to be there. This is really, in my opinion, it's not really helping out. It's not helping out Anthony Edwards, man. It's just not helping him out.
Ball is a significant net negative defensively on the perimeter.
All right, see, you went back a few years on me. You went back, but in the here and now, it makes sense for Minnesota because you got two elite guards. If they're healthy, they're elite, both of them. If they're healthy,
they're low IQ, Charles.
Minnesota. No, I don't think LaMelo Ball has a low IQ. I think
on the court, he certainly does.
You mean off the court?
On the court, he shoots anything. You talk about someone that takes bad shots. That like is the Caitlin Clark of the NBA on steroids. It's LaMelo Ball. He's unpredictable.
Well, it's been my experience that guys take shots that they're allowed to take. So
yeah, see that's a cop out. You know, certain guards, man, certain point guards, pure point guards, just know because they're interested in winning, right? And so you just can't say, well, it's the coach's fault. If you've been coached as a guard coming up through, and then by the time you get to the NBA, like this is your style of play. You know, LaMelo Ball is used to taking those bad shots throughout his career because he's been able to dictate and get away with that. I don't see him, like I said, he had to be almost like a Tyrese Halliburton, which he's not. Tyrese Halliburton, in my opinion, his on-court judgment as far as his shot selection, I think is good. You know, and so, but LaMelo Ball is not Tyrese Halliburton. And so that's my take on it. Make sure to like, subscribe to the channel. Also, don't forget to leave a comment, and I'll check you all out in the next video. Peace.